Okay, so we will start with today's session. So we were discussing about body fluids in the last week. So today we will continue the relationship of body fluids with the different internal organs. So you can see a list of organs over here, and all of them perform a particular function with respect to body fluids. We will try to understand each one of them in detail and try to see how these organs help the body in creating or utilizing different kinds of body fluids. Okay. So I'll just read out. Spleen is the one which transforms and transports in the initial phase. Lungs is the one which diffuses. Kidney once again transforms, separates. UB excretes. Triple warmer once again transforms and transports, excretes. Stomach is the origin. So when we read it out like this, not much importance goes into our head. So we'll take one by one and go into the deeper aspects of it. First thing, so spleen is a very important organ when it comes to body fluids. Spleen is the most important organ in relationship to the physiology and pathology of body fluids. So, but if you notice in terms of Western medicine, spleen is the master of the lymph. Okay, there also we can see the correlation that what the TCM says as body fluids, okay, one part of body fluid is lymph. Okay, and the major controller or the master of the lymph is spleen. So it controls the initial transformation and separation into pure and impure part. It also controls the crucial direction of moving pure and impure fluids upwards and downwards respectively at all stages of body fluid production. Just like I'm trying to give a correlation over here. Before I go to this, I will discuss a little bit of spleen and how it helps in moving upward. So let us say this is the stomach. Come here. Comes over here. So, and Mr. Spleen is over here. So, and from here there is small intestine. And then I mark it as large. So what happens is there is a direct connection of the stomach on the food which is coming, but an indirect influence of spleen throughout these things. So spleen is influencing all of these things. Okay. That is why we can say that the spleen is the one which is helping in the transformation. So we have learned in our anatomy and physiology class that when somebody drinks or eats, the absorption doesn't happen only in small intestine. it starts from the mouth itself, from the tongue. Okay, the absorption starts happening. Okay, there is lot of absorption happening starting from the mouth. There is absorptions happening, and even in stomach there is absorption happening. You know that in small intestine the absorption is happening. So who is responsible for all these absorption starting from the tongue and the small intestine? Okay, so here the spleen plays a very important role, and that is why we say spleen is the one which is helping us in the initial transformation. Okay.
How is the connection of the spleen to these organs?
Okay, the question is how are these things connected? See, physically,
connected.
how is physically we may not know. See, the large intestine is connected to small intestine via the tube.
That is clear.
And small intestine is connected to stomach via the tube. All of this is like GIT. But
yes.
when it comes to the spleen, okay, we don't, or I don't know if there is any physical connection as such. So there
How are these transferred?
How is the transformation happening? Is that the question?
Transformation happening without like a physical connection.
Yeah, just like say your cell phone tower. There is no physical wire between your phone and the cell phone tower, but still so much of data comes in and goes out, isn't it? So there is an invisible energy which is acting upon your cell phone from the cell phone tower. Similarly, there may be some physical influence. There may be some nerves going between spleen and other of these organs, but it can also be in the non-physical way.
But the
Sir,
food
can I
process,
add?
food doesn't go. Yes.
Yes, madam.
Somebody can add.
See, if you see the small intestine, I mean, especially the villi, what you see is to the villi is attached a artery, a vein, and a lymph. Lymph, what I can say, not a node. The lymph will be also, actually these three things will be attached. So when the absorption is happening from the small intestine, these three are absorbing. So I think, this is my guess, I think because lymph, the fluid which goes into the lymph is governed by spleen, there should be a way where it is acting on these organs.
Yes, makes full sense. Okay. So what Vani madam was telling is that in villi there are three things which is getting connected in the back end: arteries, veins, and lymph. So based on these connections, the spleen would be influencing all of these things, which the TCM is telling. Make sense, sir?
That means there is no real movement of food energy. It is only, only energy, just a qui.
Yes, it is. We cannot say that what the food moving through stomach and small intestine is real, and what is not moving through the GIT is not real. No, everything is real. It is only the separation of the pure and impure, okay, which we will study in the next stages.
Okay. Right. Right.
So I'll repeat this statement. It controls the initial transformation and separation into a pure and impure part. So what is moving in the GIT? In each phase, when it is moving, it is becoming more and more impure, because all the essence or the nutrients is pulled out from that food. Okay. All the pure stuff is pulled out and the impure is moving. So it also controls the crucial direction of moving pure and impure fluids upwards. Very important thing, okay, which we have already discussed many times. The pure fluids makes upwards journey and the impure fluids makes downwards journey. And this happens at all stages of body fluid production. Just like, okay, I have given an example, just like the water system in house. We will discuss this part. So because of this transformation, spleen is always treated in any type of disorders of body fluids. So let us take the example of our house itself. So when the water comes to the house, where is it? It is in the ground floor. Okay, either it comes through borewell or your municipality water connection. Now, what is done to that water? So we don't use it. Okay, by and large, we don't use the water directly. First, that water is sent upwards to the pump. With the pump, it is sent upwards and stored in a tank. And from there, the water is getting distributed to all the places. The fresh water is first pumped up to the storage tank, and from the storage tank, that fresh water is getting utilized in different parts of our home, like in different floors. Now, but what is happening with the wastewater, drainage, sewage water? From every floor, it is collected and it is moving downwards. Okay, we don't keep a overhead tank for the sewage. Okay, so whatever is getting, the fresh water is there, that is getting utilized, and once it becomes a wastewater, we send it downwards to the sewage, right? So the same system is happening even in the body also. So the first food, the food comes, and the goodness in that food is extracted, and what is it doing? It is the goodness, all the nutrients is sent upwards to where? Upwards to the lungs. And who is sending it upwards? It is the spleen, which is doing the job of extracting the nutrients and sending it upwards. Physically, different organs are doing, like stomach is doing, small intestine is doing, the tongue is doing, the esophagus is doing, all of that is in the front end. But in the back end, who is influencing all those things of the separation? It is Mr. Spleen, who is influencing all the extraction of the nutrients from the body and then sending it upwards. And once it goes upwards, once again, it is sent back down for the utilization. And that part we will understand in the next slide. Okay, this part is clear. Okay, so we'll go to the next one. The lungs. Now, what does lungs do? Lungs control the diffusing of the pure part of the body fluids coming from the spleen to the space under the skin. This is an aspect of lungs diffusing function. So it has two functions. The first one is the diffusing function. So lungs is in the upper part of the body, right? So all the nutrients is sent to the upper part, and from there the downward movement happens. Okay. So we have learned, because there is air pressure, we constantly breathe, right? What is happening? Just like a air pump to the bicycle, we put the pump, right? So the up and down movement creates the air pressure in the tube. Similarly, our inhalation and exhalation creates that air pressure, and because of that, in the form of mist, okay, the fluids is sent, the pure fluids is sent downwards. And where does it send? It is sent under the skin as a defensive key. We have learned this in the previous classes. So this function is called as the diffusing function of the lungs. And the next one is they also send some of the fluids down to the kidney and bladder. This is an aspect of the lungs descending function. Say, for example, the lungs sends the defensive key under the skin, say in the arms, etc., throughout the body. This is not called as descending function of the lungs. This is called as the diffusing function of the lungs. Whereas a mist, it is sprayed under the skin as a defensive key. But along with that, it sends the fluid downwards to the kidney and bladder. And this aspect is called as the descending function. For the above two reasons, the lungs are said to regulate the water passage. So it is giving the water to the different parts of the body and also to the kidney and bladder. Because of this, it is called the water passage of water. Okay, the water passage of the body. So next comes the kidney. Somebody is asking a question. What is absorbed in mouth, tongue? Okay, Bindu madam is asking a question. Okay, she thought that the digestion happens in the mouth and absorption happens in the small intestine. Okay, so but both the functions happen at all the stages in different proportions. Say in the mouth, okay, like alcohols, etc., those kind of things, sweetness, even that also gets, to some extent, gets absorbed starting from the tongue. And in stomach also there are some kind of fluids which get absorbed. Okay. But when it comes to small intestine, major amount of absorption happens. Okay. Say minimum amount of digestion happens in small intestine, major amount of absorption happens in small intestine. But when it comes to mouth and stomach, major amount of digestion happens, minimum amount of absorption happens, but it is not zero. There is some amount of absorption which is happening in mouth and stomach. So when it comes to large intestine, there also there is absorption. The digestion is minimum. Okay. In large intestine, the digestion is minimum. Maximum is the absorption. Water is getting absorbed and some of the vitamins also is also getting absorbed in large intestine. With this, we can say starting from mouth till anus, both the digestion and absorption is happening. Only thing is the proportion of it is different. The digestion is maximum towards the beginning and minimum towards the end. And the absorption is minimum towards the beginning and maximum towards the end. Okay, when I say end, it is SI and LI together. Okay, hope this is clear. Okay, next, when we come to the kidney. So kidneys are extremely important in the physiology of the body fluids. What does it do? So in the last class, we understood that so lungs descends the fluids to the kidney, but along with that, kidney also gives that moisture back to the lungs in the form of steam. Okay. The steam is sent upwards. Say when you put water, from the falls, the water comes downwards. But when you heat it, the water vapors, it goes in which direction? The water vapors goes up, the steam rises up. The same phenomena is being utilized over here. First, they vaporize some of the fluids. Like these are all extremely important part to understand, so pay full attention to it. They first vaporize some of the fluids, they receive and send them back to the lungs. Why? It is to moisten the lungs and prevent they are getting too dry. See now, if the water is coming down, say in the tank, so let's say the tank empties because the entire movement is downwards. But the lungs also needs fluids for itself, right? So it is sent in a different form. I will take the very famous example of heart. See, heart is pumping. It is receiving the blood. It is dealing with the blood. But the heart sends the blood to all the parts of the body. Now, heart also requires blood for its own function. Even though the heart gives blood to all the organs, heart also requires blood. So, but the heart cannot just take as and when it requires. Because the heart is pumping, I'll just take some amount from the blood. No, it doesn't happen. So there is a separate channel for it. So some amount of the final blood goes from the arteries to the heart, that we call it as coronary arteries. Okay, so there is a system for the heart to utilize the blood. It cannot just randomly utilize because it is dealing with the blood, right? Just like a cashier in the bank, just because the cashier is giving out money to everyone, he cannot take the money as and when he requires. Okay, I will give 1 lakh to the customer and say take 1,000 rupees as my salary. Does it work like that? No. Whatever is to be given, they give. But how will the cashier get the money? The cashier will get the money in a different form, in the form of salary. Okay, once a month, there is a money deposited in the cashier's account, right? So same thing is happening in the lungs and kidney also. So the lungs is giving all the fluids to all the organs, but the lungs also require some fluid for its own functioning. And who gives that thing? The kidney gives it back to the lungs for the function to be done, for the lungs to function itself. Okay, so first they vaporize some of the fluids, they receive and send them back to the lungs to moisten the lungs and prevent it getting too dry. So lungs sends it as a liquid form, but the kidney cannot give it back to the lungs in the kidney form, in the liquid form, because it has to send it upwards. Lungs is sending downwards, but the kidney is supposed to send backwards, right? So it can only send by creating steam out of it. So it creates the steam and the steam goes up and the lungs receives that steam and utilize the moisture. Okay. Furthermore, the kidney in particular, particularly kidney yang, controls many stages of transformation of fluids. So these are the main things. One is they provide the heat necessary for the spleen to transform body fluids. For this reason, the deficiency of kidney yang nearly always results in a deficiency of spleen yang with consequent accumulation of fluids. Very important thing. Very, very, very important aspect when it comes to diagnosis. So we'll get back to this figure. Say kidney is influencing the absorption in the entire GIT, right? But who is influencing the spleen? It is, let's say, it is kidney, and within that there is kidney. Kidney has multiple things. So kidney has kidney yin, kidney has kidney yang, kidney has essence,
and Chi.
And okay. So now, what is helping the spleen? It is the kidney yang is assisting the spleen. Okay. So, and also it has many other functions. We will discuss one by one. But I will say kidney yang is also assisting the small intestine. Kidney yang is also assisting the UB. So, which we will. So, they provide the heat necessary for the spleen to transform body fluids. For this reason, a deficiency of, okay, we discussed this. So, what is kidney yang? Basically, spleen is transforming the nutrients, right? We learned for any kind of transformation to happen, what is required? Heat is required. Right? Heat is the only element out of 5 elements which transforms one thing to another. I gave you an example of your finger. If you put your finger in the fire, it will get transformed, but not in water or air.
Right.
So this fire to spleen comes from the kidney yang. Kidney yang is the fire part. The fire of the kidney induces heat or induces the fire in the spleen. That is called as spleen yang. Okay. If the source kidney yang is deficient, then the spleen yang, which is the receiver, will also be obviously deficient. This is what it is being told here. Second, the kidney yang assist the small intestine in its function of separation of body fluids into pure and impure. So now the small intestine has to absorb the nutrients from the food. There also it requires heat. Who gives that heat? Once again, kidney yang. Third, they provide key to the bladder for its function of key transformation. In the previous class, we discussed that the urinary bladder receives the pure. The small intestine sends the pure part to the urinary bladder. And this urinary bladder has to separate the pure and impure. The pure goes back and get excreted as sweat, and the impure goes back as the urine. So for this transformation to happen, who will give the heat? Once again, it is the kidney yang. And fourth, they assist the triple burner transformation and excretion of fluids. So even the triple warmer mechanism gets assistance from the kidney yang. So you see how important kidney yang is. It is an extremely important heat for the transformation, separation, and excretion of fluids. So it is the heart yang is the one responsible for the final transformation of the blood. It gives the shape to the blood. We understood the importance of kidney yang. See, now the kidney has to do so much of function. Like it is the mother of the yin and as well as the yang for the entire body. So it has to constantly feed its children. Something like a mother who is constantly feeding all the hungry children. So what happens? The kidney becomes weak. So always in TCM, we know that kidney is always excess or deficient.
Deficient.
Kidney is okay. So we will discuss about the triple warmer little later. So kidney is always deficient and the liver key is always excess. Okay, we have learned this. Okay, so this is the importance of kidney yang. And anybody who's you see the kidney yang, if it is not treated over a period of time, it will result into spleen yang deficiency and their metabolizing ability will reduce automatically. Okay. And this, a very important, the key which is coming from the yang, which is coming from the kidney, is helping this key transformation in bladder. So I told, if somebody is having clear urination, okay, means the urine doesn't have any color, light yellow color, then that also shows that the transformation of key is not happening properly within the UB. And who is responsible for that? Mainly the kidney yang. So if you notice in the diagnosis part, kidney yang, one of the symptom is clear urination. Okay. So the next part, the small intestine. Small intestine separates the fluids it receives from the stomach into clear part and the impure part. So the small intestine separates good and bad. Okay, and the bad part is sent to the LI, and where it is further separated, okay, which we have learned. Okay, the SI function of separating fluids is controlled by the action of kidney yang once again, which provides key and heat necessary for this separation to take place. So urinary bladder. Okay, urinary bladder separates the fluids it receives into pure and impure part, and it excretes urine by the power of key transformation. Once again, which we discussed. Okay, the key, whatever the impure part was received into UB, once again it has to separate it out, send it as sweat and send it as urine. For this, it requires heat, and that is also provided by kidney yang. So triple warmer. So one of the mysteries. Out within the mystery, it is furthermore mystery. Okay. So it is also called as triple burner. Okay. So what does it do? It assists the transformation, transportation, and excretion of fluids at all the stages. Okay, so we will first take up this, we will see this figure, and then, okay, so we can divide this into three parts. So now, in all the three parts, three levels, there is fire. Okay. Here also there is. And here also there is fire. Now, the fire of the bottom part, where will it go? Natural direction is upwards. Okay, so I'll the lower warmer fire. It will go upwards. And where will the middle warmer fire go? That will also go upwards. Middle warmer fire. And where will the upper warmer fire go? That will also go upwards. Upper warmer fire. So now there is an accumulation of excess fire in the top, because all the fires are going upwards. Now this fire cannot be used in the same form. Like it requires, the fire is required throughout the body. Everywhere it is required. Now, but all the fire is going upwards. So there should be some mechanism through which this fire is properly distributed in all the warmers, right? So there should be a proper distribution method. The fire is utilized in all the warmers in as much as it is needed. This mechanism of proper distribution of fire in all the three warmers is called as triple warmer. Okay, so that the fire doesn't become too much over here. So this is the mechanism of triple warmer. Okay. So now we will try to understand this, what is being told. So what does this triple warmer do? So it assists the transformation and transportation and excretion of fluids at all the stages, in all the three burners or the three sections. It takes care of it. So in the simple sections, chapter 8 part, in the yellow emperor, it says the triple burner is the official in charge of irrigation and it controls the water passage. So along with the distribution of fire, probably it takes care of the distribution of water also. The upper burner assists the spleen in directing the pure fluids upwards and the lungs in dispersing them to the space under the skin. So in the upper warmer, we have lungs. So what comes to the lungs is through spleen. And so the upper warmer, the upper burner helps in the spleen, pulling the fluids upwards, and the lungs to disperse them downwards under the skin. For this reason, the upper burner is compared with the mist. Okay, in the first, in the class where I was discussing about the lungs, I have given this example like a spray bottle. Like if you are putting any perfumes, etc., the perfume comes as a mist, and that is because of the pressure which is there within the bottle. Right? In the same way, the lungs has the pressure, and because of that pressure, this thing is spread as a mist. And another important thing to understand here is, say, I have discussed this part. Let's say we have a container and there is fire given to the container. And there is water. Now the fire is coming here, but the water on the top is also getting heated. How? So when you touch the water, the top surface is getting hot. Why? It is because the warm water rises upwards and the cool water comes down. So the water which is getting hot, heated here, so it will rise up, and whatever water which is there over here, which is not hot, it will come down. So in this way, the entire water in the container gets heated. Okay, we would have done these experiments in our school days. So if there is a heat, this kind of transformation is also getting utilized in the triple warmer, because basically it is what is happening this circulatory movement is happening with water. Water is a fluid, right? And what are we discussing? That is also body fluids. It is fluids. And when you apply heat to the water, so that water has to move upwards in different warmers. The water has to move, right? So based on the fire which is in the bottom, it sends upwards. Then once again, if you apply fire, it will send upwards. Then allow it to cool down, it will come downwards, and allow it to cool down further, it will come downwards. So this kind of mechanism of upward movement, downward movement based on its temperature, triple warmer. Okay. So I'll come back to the slide. So the upper burner assists in directing the pure fluids upwards and the lungs in dispensing them to the space under the skin. For this reason, the upper burner is compared with the mist. Second, the middle burner assists the stomach in its function of churning the fluids and directing the impure part, downwards. For this reason, the middle burner is compared with the muddy pool, a reference to stomach's function of rotting and ripening. What is happening in the stomach? There is because of the acid, the food is getting rotten and ripened, and because of that, it is compared to muddy pool. And in the lower burner assists the small intestine, the bladder, urinary bladder, and the kidney in their functions of transforming, separation, and excretion. For this reason, the lower burner is compared with the drainage ditch. Okay, so all the drainage of the human body is mainly in the lower warmer, the urinary excretion and the stool excretion. So this is about the triple burner. Okay. Stomach. So even though in all these discussion, stomach did not come up, but it plays an important role. Why? It's because all the fluids or food first enters the stomach. When we eat or drink, where does it go? It first enters the stomach. And from there, they are transformed and separated by spleen. So it goes in, but the energy which is given by the spleen is helping it to transform. And we have this part we have discussed in terms of what food is liked by stomach and what food is liked by spleen. I'll just repeat it for the benefit of newcomers. The stomach likes to be moist because always there is moisture in it, right? The stomach acid is moisture. So it likes to be moist. In contrast, the spleen likes to be dry. So if you do the opposite, if you make the stomach dry and spleen wet, there is a lot of trouble in the body. So you give what each of them likes. The stomach likes moist kind of food, so you give moist and slippery wet kind of food like rice, oats, etc. And the dry foods are needed for the spleen, so anything which is dry. So but there is only one entry to the mouth, to the body through mouth. Either you have to put the dry food which is liked by the spleen, or you have to put the moist food which is liked by the stomach. So how do you satisfy both? Is by giving a balanced diet where it has both. If you eat only dry stuff, that also hampers your body. If you eat only moist kind of food, that also hampers. So generally most of the thing we see is because of there is excess dryness. If there is excess dryness in the stomach, it can lead to stomach in deficiency. This is one of the important things that we see in diagnosis part. Okay, so this was for today's session. So any questions is welcome now.
Sir,
can I
Yes.
ask you a question?
Yes.
Sir, you were telling that kidney moistens the lungs, right?
Mhm.
So if there is dryness in the lungs, is it kidneys are responsible for that?
Kidney, one of the main responsibilities is kidney. Kidney in.
Kidney in. No, sir,
Yes.
that is what I wanted to confirm with that. Kidney
Yes, yes.
in is responsible. right?
Kidney in.
Okay.
Along with that, the secondary is lungs in.
Okay.
Make sure, right? It is, and
Yes.
probably third, if you want to think of the root, then it is stomach in. So three
Okay.
different burners. On the top burner, it is lungs in. Middle burner,
Yeah.
it is stomach in. Lower burner, it is kidney in. So between these three in, you will have to figure it out.
Okay.
Okay.
Well clarified, sir. Thank you, sir.
Welcome. Welcome.
Excuse
Next
me,
question.
sir. I have a question. I was just wondering, does liver have any role in all of this, or the liver is not very important organ here?
See, when it comes to blood, liver is very important. When it comes to body fluids, it is not as important as, say, spleen.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question now, Krishnamurthy?
Okay, you go ahead and ask.
So sometimes our foot is quite dry, in the sense the fingers, between the fingers and sides of the foot is very dry. So this represents lower burner fluid deficiency. So in that case, kidney in can be given, and along with that, spleen can also be given, right? That could be the way of thinking.
It can be. So once again, diagnosis, I'm not going into deeper aspects of it, but your line of thinking is right. So either you will have to think starting from the top. Water is being sent downwards from the lungs. You will have to see the middle warmer stomach, then the lower warmer kidney. What is impacting? Okay.
Okay.
It can be kidney in, it can be sometimes lungs in, it can be stomach in.
Okay.
Make sure.
Okay, that correlation, yeah, but thinking ways should be
out of
okay.
these three, you will have to figure out something. Mainly
Yeah.
these three, right?
Okay.
So at least the problem is reduced for to a very only three probabilities. So there we will use our diagnostic abilities and then figure out one of them. Okay.
Krishnamurthy. Now, condition of ascites, where there is abdominal body fluid collection, or edema, when there is pedal edema, in the foot area, all that, when it happens, can we say which organ is creating the problem? Because we see in body fluid, so many fellows are responsible according to this chart that you have put up.
Yes.
So will this be a guidance? Now, suppose I have in the foot, I'm having accumulation of body fluid. Can I say the lower part of the triple warmer is not working? Or if it's in the abdomen, is it the middle part of the triple warmer? Does it work like that?
See, only some extent we can think of it in that way. See, water, anywhere the pump is failing, right? So the water tendency is to come down and collect.
Accumulate down, correct.
Right. So first thing should come to us is kidney. If not, then we will have to see, is it because of the circulation of heart? What is going wrong? So these are only pointers to start our this thing, but not no fixed formula can be given at this level.
But this concept is beautifully explained by you. I'm really feeling now,
No.
actually speaking, when I did my right up to 6th semester, when I did these classes, friends, I could not understand what the hell was happening, especially when we have got such closed minds, or rather such scientifically, dogmas, literally. It was so hard for me to understand, but now I'm beginning to sink. This is the first time. I'm so grateful to Krishnamurthy for having, taking the trouble of reading it and trying to explain it in simple terms. We really, really have to be so grateful to Krishnamurthy. Thank you again and again and again.
Thank you.
Madam, I second
Really
you,
love
madam.
these classes.
I really second you,
Yes,
madam. I
absolutely.
understand a lot of things when he is explaining,
Yes.
sir is explaining.
Sir, can I just add something?
Yes.
This is Smita.
Mhm.
Actually, you know, I was very skeptical before joining you. I know, you know, I asked you so many questions.
Yes.
Because it was like you already mentioned you're a student but you're trying to study, and I was in my mind, I was thinking, okay, what am I? But you are, it's like hard to give it in words, but what we learned from so many, I have been learning and learning, it has been many, many years, but what you have been teaching has opened up different dimensions of understanding this therapy. It's just wonderful. It's just making me feel like, oh my God, you know, how come when we were learning, we didn't try to even go in deeper. We are just accepting, but with the way you have explained is something that that just gives so much insight to what we already know. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. And it is just a tip of an iceberg. There is so much more to understand, explore.
I'm
including
ready
me.
for the journey.
That
I'm
you know,
ready
for
for
me
the
to
journey.
explore. Okay, so there is so much more to understand. It will be fascinating. Only thing is, it
It is.
requires consistent effort to
Yes.
study and to understand.
Yes, but even consistent study did not bring out what you have been going deeper and explaining to others also. You know, sometimes people do understand themselves, but to share is something, it has to have a bigger heart to share the knowledge that you are actually finding in yourself. Very nice. Very appreciated.
Thank you. Thank you.